Hello, I'm Dr. Glenn Wilkerson, President and founder of the ARC Group. Please know how much I appreciate your interest in our award-winning program, ARC for Parents and Caregivers. It's a modern tool for parenting, and it is a new concept that can have a tremendous impact on the quality of life for children and their families. It helps parents to become more skilled at the most difficult and most important job in the world. How do we go about being a good parent? Well, a major aspect of successful parenting has to do with helping a child to feel valued. You see, the way a child feels about himself determines the manner in which he views the world around him. If the child feels good about himself, he will see the world as friendly, hospitable, and full of promise. On the other hand, if the child does not like himself, he will picture the world as a hostile, dangerous place. A child's positive feelings toward himself and his environment are important because, as a wise man once said, how you view the world is how you will behave in it. So, helping a child to value himself is one of the greatest gifts that a parent can provide. And what we're talking about is a child's self-esteem. I want to share with you a new research-driven definition of the term self-esteem because it is essential to what needs to take place in every home. Cutting-edge self-esteem research. Disillusioned by the old self-esteem movement, I went to the University of Texas School of Public Health in the Houston Medical Center and got the late Dr. Ron Lorimer to help me develop a self-concept survey, which we gave to students in 2 school districts in the Houston area. And we emerged with a new concept for creating self-esteem in kids. It's not based on performance. A child might feel really good about making straight A's on a report card or being first chair clarinet in the band or making the varsity soccer team, but those feelings soon fade. The research shows that true self-esteem is generated by a child's having a relationship of unconditional love with at least one adult who is prominent in that child's life. Hopefully it's the child's parent or maybe a grandparent. Someone who will say to the child, "I'm not cutting you any slack for bad behavior. When you misbehave, trust me, there will be consequences. However, I want you to know this. You are my child and I love you and care about you, and there's absolutely nothing you could ever do to keep me from loving you and caring about you." This gift of unconditional love allows a child to value herself in spite of her imperfections and is the key to true self-esteem. Unconditional love also helps children and adults to live life to the fullest. Let me give you an example. Phil Mickelson is a professional golfer and is considered to be one of the greats, among the best to ever play the game. He's known for his brilliant shot making and also for his taking risk and trying very difficult shots instead of playing it safe. Sometimes those risky shots toward the end of a golf tournament enable him to be the winner. Other times, those risks cost him the tournament. One such case was the 2006 U.S. Open played at Winged Foot. Phil stood on the tee box at the final hole of the tournament holding a one-shot lead. All he needed to do in order to win was to par the hole. He proceeded to hit a series of terrible shots and finished with a double bogey, losing one of the most prestigious tournaments in professional golf by 1 stroke. It was a staggering loss for Mickelson. He had practiced for months in hopes of winning this particular event. Later that day, Phil was snuggling with his daughter, Amanda, and she asked, "Are you okay, Dad?" He replied, "Well, I'm a little disappointed. This was a tournament I dreamt of winning as a kid, and I haven't yet." His daughter said, "Well, second is pretty good, Dad. Can I get you a piece of pizza?" Reflecting back on that moment, Mickelson says, it was kind of a bigger picture perspective. 2 days later, Phil took his family to Disneyland, where he would be the focus of attention of tens of thousands of people, many of whom would be aware that he had just blown a major golf tournament. Mickelson's mindset was, it's time to move on. I know my wife loves me. I know my kids love me. I can't wait to tee it up next time. Phil says, my family has reduced the effect of my career on my self-esteem. When I'm with them, they make me feel special, regardless of how I play. That's the power of unconditional love. It's the key to resilience and high self-esteem. And as much as adults like you and I and Phil Mickelson need unconditional love, children need it even more. What is unconditional love? Many parents and teachers have asked me, what do you mean by the term unconditional love? Our definition of unconditional love is that it is not a warm, fuzzy feeling or a soft, sentimental emotion. Unconditional love requires an intentional decision to relate to children in a certain way. Unconditional love separates the person from the behavior, means loving a child for who she is rather than for what she does. It is persistent, it doesn't give up. And unconditional love is not permissive. It encourages responsible behavior. I want to say that again. Unconditional love is not permissive. In fact, a child who is raised in a permissive environment with no rules or consequences will perceive it as a lack of love. I remember one of my teenage daughters saying, "Dad, my friend Emily doesn't have a curfew. Shouldn't her parents care more about her than that?" For their physical and emotional safety, kids need some structure in their lives. Unconditional love requires parents to establish some boundaries for responsible behavior. And when kids step outside of those boundaries, to impose some reasonable consequences so that the child can learn from her mistakes and behave more responsibly in the future. It is a primary task of parenting with unconditional love. The unconditional love research. Now I want to share with you research regarding unconditional love that the ARC group conducted in cooperation with the University of Texas School of Public Health. The research revealed a new understanding of human relationships called the self-concept triad. The new research shows that the manner in which a person views himself is his self-concept. And the self-concept consists of two very distinct components: self-worth and self-esteem. Self-worth has to do with performance. It values a person based on what he does. Self-esteem is created by unconditional love. It values a child based on who he is. Of the two, self-esteem is vastly more important in its contribution to our self-concept. In fact, the research shows that self-esteem contributes 2/3 to a person's self-concept, while self-worth contributes only 1/3. This is so important in our working with children. As important as it is to help a child achieve and perform, the fact remains that self-esteem fueled by unconditional love is twice as important as self-worth fueled by performance in its contribution how a child values himself. So, in response to the University of Texas research, the ARC group developed the ARC for Parents and Caregivers program. The purpose of ARC is to help parents provide the unconditional love that builds high self-esteem and creates a positive self-concept in our children. It's for all children, not just for at-risk kids. Every child walking this planet has a need to feel loved and wanted. And by the way, our award-winning ARC for Parents and Caregivers program has received the Texas Governor's Certificate for Excellence in Parent Programming. Created a new parenting model. The power of ARC for Parents and Caregivers is that it helps us create a new parenting model. Do you remember growing up and saying to yourself, I will never say the things to my child that my mother said to me, and I will never beat my kids like my daddy did me. And then we become parents, and we unconsciously repeat the same parenting behaviors that have been in place in our family for generations. Following my sophomore year at the University of Texas, I returned to my family home in Odessa, Texas from a summer job. One afternoon, I saw a pickup truck next to mine. Everybody drives pickups in Odessa, Texas. And on that pickup was a bumper sticker that said, "My day ain't complete till I've caught hell from somebody." I guess that slogan must have gotten imprinted on my subconscious, and almost immediately I got a chance to use it. That night, I slipped into our house an hour past my curfew. Next morning, I came into the kitchen to eat breakfast, and there sat my father at the kitchen table. Now, Dad was a big man, 6'3", 245 pounds, and a former professional football player. He said, "Son, why did you come home an hour late last night?" Well, I just awakened, and so without thinking, I blurted out, "Well, all I know is my day ain't complete till I've caught hell from somebody." Dad said, "What did you say?" And I repeated it. "I said that my day ain't complete till I've caught hell from somebody." You wouldn't believe a man that big could move that fast. In a heartbeat, he was out of his chair and he was on me. He grabbed my arm and I started running in a circle with him as the pivot point. Now, he didn't actually want to hurt me. So instead of using the toe of his shoe, he used the instep and started applying his foot to my behind as we spun around in a circle with him yelling, "I'm your father, show me some respect, don't you ever talk to me that way again." Without the help of an art group or some similar program, it was almost certain that I would someday do the same thing to my son, Kevin. I got my chance when he was in the 8th grade. We pulled into the driveway at our house one Saturday afternoon, and as we got out of the car, I asked him to do something, and he said, "Make me." Without consciously thinking about what I was doing, I spun him around, grabbed him by the collar, and propelled him across the front lawn. Just as my father had done, applying the instep of my shoe to his behind and yelling, "I'm your father, show some respect for me, don't you ever talk to me that way again." To my utter embarrassment, we got halfway across the yard, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw that 4 cars had stopped to watch the preacher abuse his kid. The next morning, I had an early breakfast with a friend and told him what I had done. I said, "You know, I didn't abuse Kevin physically so much as I abused him emotionally. I shamed him in front of our entire neighborhood." My friend said, "Glenn, where did that come from?" And it instantly dawned on me. My father did the same thing to me 25 years ago. Parenting behaviors are passed on from our parents to us and through us to our children unless we consciously step back and analyze those behaviors and decide upon new and more appropriate ways of relating to our children. ARC can help us set in motion new parenting patterns that will grace our families for generations to come. ARC parenting is for both struggling parents and extremely effective parents who want to become even better at the most difficult and most important job in the world. It's also for grandparents, teachers, child care providers, daycare workers, church leaders, coaches, and all caring adults who want to enhance their skills at loving and nurturing children. It is available in both English and Spanish translations. ARC provides an amazing opportunity to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time.